Bad things are going to happen tonight and tomorrow night. This is surprisingly easy to hold. I like drinking out of it. I need to make a stand, but it's like so super fucking easy to drink. It's like, rock me a fourth. Overthrow my horn. Make me horny.
Your horn is overflowing. I love it.
Ow!
Hello and welcome to the Quackcast. This is Quackcast number 355, the Drunk Duck Quackcast. If only one of us is particularly drunk. Well, we're doing like a New Year's Eve cast and also a cliffhanger cast because it's related. It's Tance's news post idea of cliffhangers, which is a good idea because New Year's are just a natural cliffhanger. And
beautiful, brilliant Tangerine,
exactly.
who is the goddess of the muse of our Quackcasts. Love her.
The Tangerine Dream.
I will kill you if you don't.
Enforced love. For
that's how you started living.
So we have Pitface, the drunken Pitface. We have...
Yes. Oh, no!
She's drinking from her drinking horn. Magnificence.
Happy New Year.
Vessel it is. Yes, Happy New Year. Nostrovia. I'll say the only foreign...
Tanya, how do you say... No, shut up for a second. How do you say...
Drunken slag.
I was about to translate that. Shut up for a second.
How do you say Happy New Year in Greek?
Καλή χρονιά.
Καλή χρονιά.
Yes.
He's like, you all suck so much, but I'm gonna laugh and I'm gonna smile because you gave an effort.
No, I like to when you try and succeed in actually speaking Greek. So
does that mean
bravo, καλή χρονιά.
Good year, right? Good years.
What? Yes.
Good years.
Good. Let's say no. Χρονιά is a singular.
Happy New Year.
Like
I'm stupid.
The year like a lass. It's like a beautiful lass of a year. Nice.
She's a gorgeous year. She's a beautiful year. The best of years. The greatest of years. Ew, I'm going to stop.
Which, of course, by the end of the year, will have transformed into a shrivelly old, disgusting man. So
yes, as it always does.
Bizarre. Well, I suppose that's the thing. Yeah, the New Year and the end, the old year, it dies and it gets reborn, which is the true spirit of the changing of the year.
Here's to the old school. Yep. Don't matter if you look cool.
We even have a very classical New Year song that we sing right after the year rolls in. That goes. I'm not gonna sing it, so be calm.
But what's it called then?
It's called in Greek "Πάει ο παλιός ο χρόνος," and it means there goes the old year, and let's rejoice and everything. And it literally has a line where it says "old year," like as in old man year. Get out of here now. Your line has passed. Your time has passed. Like they actually literally tell that in the song.
It's all spelled out for you there.
Get out of here, you old hag, sort of thing. I'm gonna find it now.
Weirdly enough, I was removed over the holidays using those exact words. from a bar. That's a crazy coincidence.
Baines, of course, another part of the Quackcast. All right, before we get too much into our reminiscences, let's continue the structure of the Quackcast. Okay, we have the Quackcast featured comic coming up next, and the featured comic was Et Spiritus Divino, which is badly pronounced by me, some sort of Latin. Et Spiritus Divino.
And we also have you. Tangerine is here. We didn't introduce, and yourself is Ozone Ocean.
Yes. All right. Take it away. Ozone Ocean with Et Spiritus Divino. Hello, I'm Ozone Ocean, and my feature this week was Et Spiritus Divino. Okay, this is a post-apocalyptic world where Aiden lives, and it's not really suited to him. He's an intellectual, a reader, and a thinker. His world requires survival skills and hard work and subsistence living. The day-to-day is a struggle. There are vicious, savage monsters in this world, hungry for human flesh. Just like Aiden's mind is hungry for the seductive knowledge of the old world, culture, history, science, and religion. He knows that people can be greater. There's more to life than mere survival. The art in Et Spiritus Divino is all full color. This is a post-apocalyptic sci-fi story. There are not too many pages, so this is the best time to get into it and start reading and exploring and trying to find out what's going to happen to poor Aiden when the demons, the monsters, these horrible creatures show up, and how they're going to cope with them, and maybe they are going to progress and not just be stuck in the day-to-day survival and the grind. So read Et Spiritus Divino by Et Spiritus Divino. And that was our featured comic, Et Spiritus Divino. And next up, we have the featured music by Gum Wallace, and it's Slither and Friends, which is a good comic about a snake. Down home, dirty, scratchy groove. Feel the outdoors and the sound of the country in this one. Cool, full-bodied, and natural. Oh my god, it sounds like I'm describing a beer there. Alright, take it away. Gum Wallace. Featured music by Gunless. Thank you very much. Slither and Friends, or Slither and Friends, as Spain says, because he's a potterist, a dirty potterist, a dirty potterist. Okay, I had to get that in. Okay. Cliffhangers and New Year's stuff. Well, I quite like Pitt's spiel, her ramble. So continue, Pitt. rambling if you feel like it.
I have no idea what you're talking about, quite honestly.
Yes, no one has any idea. Yes, about it's stream of consciousness.
This is supposed to go into cliffhangers, right?
Yes, we'll talk about cliffhangers.
Okay.
Which is
So, have you ever gone down a river and then
never. What's a river?
Never, because there's no rivers in Australia.
Yeah,
and yeah, because wallabies shat in them, and then you're like on the raft, and you're going down the wallaby shit river. And you're like, where's this taking me? But nobody knows. And it's a wallaby shit river because that's very unknown. Nobody has ever heard of a wallaby shit river. But then, like, you're like, I'm going to ride this to the end because it might give me some unusual insight. And that's where we go into Pinky TA. Because then... The outlet goes to Pinky TA. That's so why did that river empty into Pinky TA, Osborne?
Well, you could have a cliffhanger there. So you're riding down the Wallaby Shit River, and there's a waterfall coming up, and we stop right before the waterfall. Will our heroes fall over the shitfall into the Pinky TA land, or will they save themselves just before they're consigned to this terrible doom? Find out next week. And our cliffhanger.
Same pink time, same pink channel.
Exactly.
But you can't do that because we still got half an hour to go.
Well, that's an example of our.
So you're ending it prematurely.
Well, I'll end your example at least. So that gives us.
Actually, that was where not to do the cliffhanger, like not in the middle of the cast.
Tons.
That was an example. It was a hands-on experience.
So Tons.
Unless we were cutting to a commercial, it was to be like an act break.
Oh yeah.
Miniature cliffhanger. Then you cut somebody selling paper towels.
When we get sponsors, we're gonna do that.
Yeah.
I like your idea, Tant. So you've talked about this idea of having cliffhangers in webcomics, like every single page of a webcomic almost, to keep people interested so they keep on reading, or a book. And that's why you have the can't put down ones, because you have to find out what happens next, and then you have to find, because they have them like 3 or 4 cliffhangers like staggered together. So as soon as you find out, resolve what happens to one, you're going through the next one that has to be resolved already. So you think, oh my god, what's going to happen next? Oh, I found out what happened to there, but I'm wanting to know what happens to this particular thing, how it resolves. So that's a good way of doing it. And
yeah, actually, that's always how I ended up pulling all-nighters when I was reading good books, at least. I always told myself, okay, one more chapter just to see where this goes, and then I'll sleep. But by the time I got to the end of that chapter, I had to read the next one to see where I went, where the story took me after that, and then the book was done, and then I could sleep. But of course, the sun had gone up, and I had to go to school. So, sorry for that.
Like video games.
But in the overall scheme of the things, though, were they worth it?
Yes.
To stay up and generally?
Yes, totally.
That's what Tons tells herself now.
Oh no, I mean, I have to say that I was incredibly bored out of my mind in school.
Yeah.
So actually sacrificing attention time to my all-nighters wasn't really all that much of a problem, because there wasn't anything interesting to watch in class. So yeah, it was totally worth it. And
your cliffhanger books were a savior.
yeah.
Well, this is done in, webcomics is a fantastic way of making us read more and more and more on webcomics. It's done in books. It's done in TV shows traditionally. At the end, you have a cliffhanger. But I was watching this anime series where they do every single episode is done that way with a staggered cliff, except in the middle of the show, they introduce a new cliffhanger. They resolve the cliffhanger from last week, and then a new cliffhanger is introduced in the middle of every show. And that became too predictable. So you had cliffhanger fatigue. So then I didn't want to watch it anymore because they kept on doing it over and over and over. Like a soap. That's how soaps get people.
Or like a Flash Gordon, like an ancient serial where you're sort of,
Well, they didn't say on the end, what happens next? Will our hero survive? It's just
but the mechanics of it were the same, even though
a whole bunch of unresolved things it finished on without resolving the social situation that happened and the dialogue and this particular thing that happened in the plot. It wasn't, and then it's resolved in the first 5 minutes of the next one, and I hate it.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think that if you do it a little bit like it's a conveyor line or conveyor belt, or cookie cutter, like you always have at least the same type of cliffhanger at the exact same spot in the storytelling situation, and so on and so forth. Then the audience will stop engaging because, as you said, it is extremely predictable and it loses its pathos in a sense. But I think that you can change the quality and the style and the type of cliffhanger, because you can have several different types and they don't all need to be super dramatic. Like, they don't need to be, oh my God, the world is ending. What will our heroes do? No. Oh my God, this one is going to die. What will he do except die?
Except
you don't you don't need to do that. I think that small, as I said in the news post, you can have small, quote unquote, cliffhangers in simple little things that spark the interest, and people want to read on to see how these pan out. Like, for example, you might have someone throw an insult.
Yeah.
And you know that they're not going to kill each other, or, the world won't come to an end, but you want to see how the other one is going to react. I want to see his face when he hears that, or little, even to the level of gossip sort of cliffhangers, and just enough to keep yanking the audience sane in a sense. Especially if your updates aren't very frequent, like mine. You need to have a little bit of cheese in your mousetrap.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Right.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah. It's a clever way of driving audience. I've noticed that when I do features, the comics that I can't stop reading are like that. You read on and on and on because you want to know what happens. And you keep on wanting to know what happens. A recent one like that was the Prince Project, I think it was called. It was manga comic about these demons and this high-tech people who go and destroy demons and then use their magic to battle them. and it was like very much in a tropey, traditional manga style in a lot of ways, but it was still entertaining and it was compelling because it used that cliffhanger kind of thing. You kept on wondering, how's this person going to react to this? Why has this person got this power? I want to find out. The next page, and it really worked.
Yeah.
And I also have to say that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Bames.
No, go ahead, please.
Look at Pitt.
I was going to say that for the cliffhangers to keep working, you need to establish a relationship of trust with the audience that you are going to resolve it in a way that is rewarding. And I'm thinking of this. I'm trying to find a word that is advertiser friendly to characterize it.
If we had any advertisers,
we
would worry.
We don't, so you can use whatever terms you want.
Yeah, go for it.
Let the spirit of Pit Face possess you.
Extremely horrid cop out.
All right.
Right.
In one series that had a cliffhanger at the end of the season, and you had to wait for like an entire season almost next year, the next year to see how it resolved. And it was, don't judge me, it was Chicago Med, which is not supposed to be like super quality, but they ended up on the cliffhanger of this very important main character played by Christopher Platt getting shot. And that's where it ends. And then you have to wait until next season
6 months or
to
something
see what happens and how everyone reacts and how his daughter reacts and how the staff reacts and they resolve it in 2 minutes. They show him being carried in, and then next moment, voila,
he's
all right. And everything is fine.
Jeez.
And let's not talk about it again.
Yeah, let's never mention it again. It didn't happen.
Yes.
Yes.
You know,
it's just yeah. I've heard that referred to as schmuck bait.
Exactly.
Yes, they treat us like schmucks.
Yeah, and that's how you lose an audience.
Exactly.
After a while, right? Yeah.
Don't do that. I mean, give the payoff to the audience.
That reminded. Oh, go on.
Flip them off this card. Flip them off a little bit.
Yeah.
If you want, but not in this grandiose manner. Don't do that.
That reminded me of a couple of good, well, not good, but examples of cliffhangers. Of course, the famous movie The Birds by Alfred Hitchcock, which ends on a complete cliffhanger that you don't know what's going to happen. And you look at that ending and you think, is the rest of the film, did they cut it by accident or they get the show? Oh, you bastard. When you realize that's how it ends on the king of cliffhangers.
That uncertain note. Yeah.
Will they survive? Won't they survive? You don't know. And the end of this TV series that I loved called Farscape, which is a sci-fi series, went on for about 4 seasons or something like that. 4 seasons, yeah? Mm-hmm. And in the very final episode of the 4th season, the Crichton and Aeon, the two lead characters, have finally got together. It's a will they, won't they? What will happen to them? They finally get together, and it's fantastic. And they're on this little boat in the middle of an ocean, and just enjoying the sunshine. Oh, this beautiful culmination of the whole series is these couples finally got together, and then a fighter plane swoops out of the blue sky and strafes them and blows them up. Boom! And they're both dead, and it's the end of it's the last episode of the series, and you think, oh my god, how could you end at that? And you don't know what's going to happen. And then the show was cancelled. And then, so you can't know that was just the biggest cockblock ever. Just don't know what's going to happen after that. Yeah, because they can't kill off the main characters. And well, anyway, a couple of years later, they resolved it with a movie. So before that bloody Firefly crap was around, this was before that, and yeah, before any of that, yeah, they did it. It was cool. It was cool, sort of. It was good to see how they resolved it. So that's my examples of cliffhangers that are annoying,
right?
For various reasons. I don't know if they're good cliffhangers. They weren't meant, like the one with the Sparscape wasn't meant to be a good cliffhanger. Like it wasn't meant to do that. They were meant to carry on for a 5th season. So,
yeah, that's the thing when it's like a cliffhanger, but then the thing gets canceled. That's happened to many shows, right? Where they leave this really this really intense moment.
When you have a cliffhanger, it seems that you have to have a follow-up pretty straight afterwards, though. I mean, if you don't, people will lose interest. Like, this is a kind of a dumb example, but like, for example, I love Crazy Diamond by Pink Floyd. Like, Pit Face, You're Drunk. I'm like super drunk, but
that's an awesome song.
But like, it is an awesome song. It's a 2-parter, and every time I hear it, like when I first got interested in that song, I was in high school, so I was about 18 years old. I'm 32 now, but shut up, shut your face. But I'm probably gonna listen to it now after this. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, but it's such a great song because it doesn't necessarily hook up in the way that it hooks up into the same sort of ballad or anything like that. But it hooks up to that same kind of feeling. I'm going to make this work. Don't worry. I'm going to make this analogy work.
I like that it's a song that's a cliffhanger. I don't know this.
That's right. And so as I was listening to it, for a number of years, actually, I would just listen to the first part of it. Shine on, you crazy diamond, and all that stuff. I'm like, yeah, that's me. And then, and then, and it wasn't until a couple of years later that I actually heard the second part of that song. I think, I don't know. I can't tell them apart anymore, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was. And I don't know. It just kind of hooked up. And at first I was a little disappointed. But then after I listened to it a couple more times, I kind of got into it. So I think cliffhangers are kind of that way as well. Maybe like at first, like sometimes they're kind of shitty. Like, we're going to make another one of these you have to watch and you have to turn it like the Marvel movies and shit like that. I've never really gotten into the Marvel movies. And that's kind of why I think, aside from the fact that I'm a rock-dwelling hermit crab. But, like, just the fact that some movie sits there and says, like, oh, like, all right, well, watch, this character that you might have really liked is going to have this growth in this next arc. Oh, you have to come back. I never get into that shit. Like, it's like, all right, you're kind of really baiting me. You're really you're masturbating me. So like, why? I don't know. So I guess what I'm getting at, too, in my very drunken state is that there's a way to overdo it. Like, in the way... I don't want to say it, the Marvel movies do it because I haven't seen enough of them to say so. But that there's also a way to make it just right, like the way the Pink Floyd songs just hook up. And that, once again, that's to my own bias. You know, I'm more attracted to music and stuff like that, which is going to make a difference. But once again, like the way that the Pink Floyd songs do it versus what maybe Iced Earth does it. That Iced Earth isn't that bad. They're okay, but like I'm not a general fan of their music, and so it makes it more I'm going off another track. Shut up, Deidre. Shut up. You know what? No, go back on your porch and you play your violin and you shut up. You're never going to be a part of Carnegie Hall.
You know, I always thought that "Wish You Were Here" was the sequel to "Shine on Your Crazy Diamond," but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, really.
They just
I'm not very cultured, so
spiritually related.
You're probably right.
I'm probably wrong, but that's just how I feel. Because they just.
But you might be right. You might be right, because "Shine On You Crazy," not that. "Wish You Were Here" is a song that I've neglected for quite a lot of years, and maybe I should go back and listen to it because it had some connotations in my early 20s that made me quite sad. That weren't the song's fault at all, so I kind of didn't give it its dues. So yeah, you're probably right.
I don't know. I like "Shine On Your Crazy Diamond" better now. I used to like "Wish You Were Here" better.
Yeah.
But now I like "Shine On Your Crazy Diamond" because that's so epic.
Crazy Diamond is just so, and everybody's listening like, yeah, you're old fucking hippies and shit like that. But it's so good, man. It's so good. It's got all these dynamic, like, you go through it. And I think it could probably relate to a lot of people on Drunk Duck. You know, you singer, you songwriter, you know, you're trying to make your way through these dark tunnels and you don't know where it's going to end up. And that's I guess that's part of the I'm trying to wrap it up here. Part of the intrigue of a cliffhanger is you don't know where it's going to end up, and you hope it's going to end up somewhere as very intriguing as that. You come up and you're out the other way of something so very amazing, and you want to have something to not have something, but have an experience that's worthy of saying, yeah, I went through this. I followed this person's journey, which is, I guess, the wall and a payoff. Yeah.
Yeah, like so often, even the best cliffhangers are so often like the cliffhanger part is so much better than the resolution part. Whether it's a song or a story, or so. I can't think of any offhand that I was as happy with the resolution as I was with the awesome cliffhanger.
Actually, as
probably
you guys are talking about music, that just brings to my mind like this the structure of classical music, which is very pure as opposed to like more popular music, has natural cliffhangers in it. Towards the end, especially, it has a structure, and a lot of music does, even pop music. And you think, now we're going to get to the payoff and the end, and then, but a lot of it has these cliffhangers in it where they almost get to it and they tease you that it's going to be this descent into the finale, and you bastard, why did you do that? Like the other week I was at a concert for a classical music concert, and we were watching the 1812 Overture, which was one of the finales, and towards it just goes, it's really a long piece when you listen to the whole thing, and towards the end there it ramps up to that but it has false kind of ramps up to that thing, so and then it just fades out and you think, you bastard, you're just baiting us, and you're baiting and you're baiting, and then
like you're watching Bucky. I actually love this particular piece to drive with for that reason, because it gives all this boost, and then you feel like, okay, here is where, like, especially when you expect the canons. If you're listening to the version that has the canons, and the canons don't actually come when you expect they will.
Yes.
They just occur after, like, right after the big flurry, in a sense, the biggest flurry, where you expect the canons to go off like on the dot, and they don't, and then as it's starting to taper off, you got this cannon blast. It's like, and I love that. I really like that. That sort of thing. It's like a one-upping you in a sense.
Yeah, like fireworks. Yeah, it cleverly takes it, because I think that, so because that is inherent in music, the whole cliffhanger structure, then perhaps the cliffhanger structure is a deeper thing than just a narrative like tool. It's part of how we think about things. We think things have to be resolved.
Yeah, probably also very emotional as well. At least for me, for a cliffhanger to work, I have to actually care.
Yeah,
and
you do.
Like I remember, there is this Korean drama that I'm watching, and it's extremely interesting. I will watch to the end, but I hate every single character. Like there isn't a single character that I like. Yeah. On the good or the bad side, and it has different cliffhangers in there that are very well structured, very well delivered, and I catch myself not really caring in the sense of a cliffhanger. I'm very much cerebral in that. Okay, let's see who gets the axe and what the other douchebags are gonna do, because everyone is like, there isn't a single person that you can identify with. And I think that's also part of the point of the series. But what I'm saying is that the cliffhanger doesn't work the same way if you don't have at least something invested in this.
Yes.
And depending on what you invest in, it gives a different flavor. Like if, for example, a person in that series I talked about would care about, for example, the main character or the main antagonist, then the cliffhanger would have much bigger impact than it does to me. Like, I'm interested. I want to just see how it is resolved, but I'm not emotionally invested as much as I would be if I liked the character.
Yeah.
I rambled.
No, that's true.
No, but you're right, though. You're right, though.
Totally.
No, you don't ramble. It's very. I say that as I listen to. I put on a song. Sorry, I'm taking off my boots. Like, ooh, what's teacher taking off? It's some dumb shit.
Said no one. Nobody was thinking that.
Said nobody. They're like, just shut the fuck up. Yeah. Never mind.
Listening to a song.
It was music related, and if you don't care about what's going on, then you don't.
Yeah. I mean, like, I guess it keeps coming back to music to me because I listen to a certain kind of music. There's not necessarily characters and stuff related, but there's something. I listen to a lot of new wave of British heavy metal, and there's a couple songs that I listen to that give me that distinct feeling of that I want to see what happens next, even if they don't set up a certain narrative. And I don't know. I can't make this tie in. Fuck it. Just cut this shit out. Just cut this shit out.
No, it makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense, though.
Even
it stays.
And you finished on a cliffhanger, which is good because you didn't resolve what you were saying.
Yeah, so I meant to do that.
You cliffhung us all, you bastard. You shit.
I did it. I did it. I did it. No, I'm so sorry to all of you out there. I'm so sorry.
Actually, you are one of the most articulate drunk people I have ever encountered.
Yeah.
So. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I wonder sometimes because people say that sometimes, and I can get it to a point, but then I don't know. I feel like I get to a point where I'm very self-serving, as probably many drunks are, and I don't know. Like I brought up this whole fucking point because I started listening to a song that makes me think of very classical stuff, I guess, very deep classical stuff, and I wanted to relate it to how sometimes stories go on, and it didn't go that way because it didn't make any fucking sense, because it was only from my own fucking perspective. So that's why I had to drop it, because I was clearly only gunning for this one perspective that I was looking for, because I like this fucking song. And so here you guys are. You're like, oh, it's Yusuf. So you're very kind, and I thank you. And just,
Actually,
I don't know. We all come from one point.
With all of that, you do make a very good point, though, about the cliffhanger.
Okay.
In order for it to work, you have to have brought the audience to see your particular point that you're going for, because otherwise, again, it's not going to catch. It's not going to have all this high stake situation or setup, so to speak.
Yeah.
So there you go. There you go. My God, I'm the one. I'm not drunk. I'm the one.
You did it. No, but you're not drunk, because you're beautiful and you're coherent.
Thank you, though. Thank you very much. The other thing I wanted to say is that you can have a reverse cliffhanger, in a sense, like completely surprise people with something they don't expect, and end it there. Like, the thing has happened. There is nothing mysterious about what is going to come in the next page, but it's so tremendous that you want to continue to see the next page or the next episode or whatever, the next segment.
You mean.
Yeah, because it is so earth-shattering. So it's such a game changer. Of course, obviously, this is for big cliffhangers. It's such a game changer that the entire atmosphere and setup of the story and the characters will be changed, and you want to see how that is gonna be, and that's where the cliffhanger is. So you don't hold off on any information on the actual event, but
you reveal. Instead.
Yes, exactly.
So, an important point is you cannot keep ramping that up. Because you lose structure and things go weird. That's what they do in TV soaps. So you have to be parsimonious with your information and your revelations. So you have to be careful and judicious. That's the way to make things work. Unless you do.
Sometimes they overdo it in the terms of not of a cliffhanger but of twists. Like there is a twist here, and then 2 minutes later there's another twist that cancels out the previous twist, and then there is a third twist that completely changes the game, but then another twist that brings it back. And the script is so clever that it is stroking its own self.
It's jazz, basically. And you know how everyone hates jazz.
You like jazz?
Oh, jeez. Jazz isn't that bad, except when it is.
It depends on how pretentious the player is, I think. I usually hate jazz, but lately I have heard a few people playing it and really getting across this very, very positive, impactful result. So I think it's really on how pompous, pretentious, self-serving bastard the jazz is.
There's a lot of good jazz out there.
Yeah. We're gonna be charitable and say, look, jazz is good. Not all jazz is bad.
No, you don't got to do that either. No, there's no just fucking put your real self into it. You're all right. Just like with the cliffhanger. Don't do it just to make people along. just if you're gonna do it. I don't know, because you feel it's right. I don't know.
Yeah.
Fucking
You're
Luke Skywalker, listen to the Force. I don't know. Fucking just don't be a prick.
Oh my God!
Because if you leave it too long hanging, I seriously won't give a fuck anymore. Nobody will.
Yeah.
Somebody's gonna make a fucking.
Actually, there is this webcomic. There is this webcomic that I'm reading. It's not on DuckDuck, and I don't want to name it because I will be dissing it right now.
Well, it's not on Drunk Duck. Who cares? They're all shit.
You don't know if it's gonna be on DuckDuck at some point. So, anyway, it's a retelling. It's a retelling of a fairy tale. I'm not going to say what, because then you can Google it and you will find which one it is. And
I'll work it out. Don't worry.
And beautiful art. It is very, very well presented and everything. But now we are coming to the damn climax, and there is this attempt of having this cliffhanger of seeing whether the prince of the story is going to survive or not. Blah 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 blah. But it's been dragging on and on for at least 10 stupid pages that update once a week or twice a week or something. And it feels like it's been ages. It's been ages, and it is dragging on and on because this girl, this main character that is going to save the prince, is spending every single page running through this giant fucking garden. And that's all we are seeing.
Okay. All right.
I am seriously thinking of just not bothering anymore.
Yeah.
So you don't want to
oh man, yeah, there you go.
That's what happens. You give up. If, like Pitt was saying before, if people just keep on going with this cliffhanger stuff, you just stop caring and you give up. That's what happens.
Yeah. One of my favorite series for a while, I don't know if you can recall it, was Bones. But the reason why I liked it was because of
it's named after a character in the
anthropology. No, that might have been how I found it. But those masturbatory searches. Who has my character name? but I eventually found it, and I really liked it because it was a very smart series, and I liked the character who was named Bones in it. She was very different than my Bones, but I really liked her for the first couple installments. But eventually it got to the point where it kept on staking its series on cliffhangers at the end of particular parts of the series. And I got to hate it. I don't like that series anymore. I haven't picked it up for probably 3 years. And I hate that it has to be like that because it had so much potential. I mean, murder scene investigation, and you're looking at dead bodies. You have me right there.
Yeah.
But they ruin that because it's like every other, when it gets to halfway through the end of whatever series they're on now, they're like, oh, well, we have to bring in this whole new malignant thing. And maybe they don't do that anymore because I haven't seen it for the past couple years. But it was just like for the past, it just like somebody had to be maimed, somebody had to be destroyed halfway through. And granted, that can work sometimes, but when you depend on it for a series, that's when you're going down the wrong rabbit path. It's just, don't do that. I don't care about you then. I don't care about you. You're begging for my sympathies. You're begging for my attention then. And then that makes me twice as unlikely to give it to you because I don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My mum loved that. I was just going to say my mum loved that series, had the same reaction as Pitt. So.
And
your mom's a smart lady.
Yeah. I finished that series because I am a glutton for punishment. but it became extremely tedious in the end. And I think that the biggest problem was that they slapped on this family drama narrative that was going on through, like it put that in the front and center and put the murder mysteries to the side.
Yeah,
like
it was like a secondary thing.
Exactly. I think the series had basically.
I want to see
murder. The series basically had wrapped up, but they clearly it was successful by then. Like up to maybe season 3 or something like that. But then they tacked on all sorts of tedious things that bent the entire character of the series out of shape, and they weren't even done very well. And you waited for these little gems and oases of segments within the episode where they were actually resolving the damn murder. And no, can we please go back to that? I don't want to see you drinking wine and crying about your defunct family. Like, this is not that kind of...
Yeah.
Absolutely. And if they wanted to go that way, there's better ways that they could have done it instead of just shoving. They must have known that the main draw of the show was murder mystery. That's what brought people to that show. So you know what? I'm going to do this. If all of you listening out there in Drunk Duckland, there's much better things to watch if you want to have that kind of if you want to watch that kind of thing, and maybe even more so if you want to feel more involved as well. So Kaylee Elise has a good channel on YouTube where she looks into unsolved murders, and she looks at them in a very not amateur, but a very good informed way. Another thing is look up the documentary A Certain Kind of Death. That's very don't get me wrong, you have to be prepared for it because you see a lot of dead bodies, but it's a very good documentary of what happens to people when they're found dead and there's nobody to claim them. There's a very good documentary on body farms. There's anything else to watch. There's so many other things to watch. If you're looking for a good murder investigation informative type of thing, then Bones Now. And that makes me sad to say, because it used to be such a good story. It used to be such a good thing, and it's not anymore. So you know what? I give you guys that. Make them compete.
That brings to my mind a thing that a lot of people know. This is not secret knowledge, that the TV series with Wesley Harris, that Harrison guy, whatever his name is, and oh damn it, what was it called? Like Real Murders Mysteries, Real Detective Stories, or something it was called. Real Crime or something, or something like that. With that famous movie actor who goes, all right, that's it.
Oh, True Detective, yeah.
So the first series is apparently very good. The other series aren't, but I enjoyed the first series. That was good, and that had a cliffhanger structure in that there was a whole lot of unresolved things, and you want to work through. And that was done in each episode. It wasn't just each episode, like each 2 or 3 episodes. There was something that you'd be leading up to a reveal. Who made these little weird stick structures? Where are they going to come from? What's the story of, this guy's his life? Why is he like this? The relationship between these guys, are they really enemies now? Or are they friends? Did he do something with this guy's wife? Did he not? Who is the murderer? And there were all those, and they worked together because it was so well written. It wasn't like the stuff with the guy's wife is separate to the murder, and we don't care about that because we just want to get back to the murder. It was all one story. So that was a good way of telling it. So that was a well done piece, I thought.
It was excellent.
True detective stories. Is that what you guys said?
True crime or something like that.
True detective.
True detective.
It's not. It's certainly not. But
no, it's a fiction. Yeah, but yeah, it's.
There's no reality there at all.
But it's excellent. Yeah, it really is.
I seem to recall this old series, very much not true, but well played. I think it was called Cold Case or Cold Case Files or Cold Case. Something.
Yeah.
And I remember really liking that, and that had the decency to stop when it ran out of stories to tell, and it stayed true to the character of the series, even though you did have the main character going through development, and I think, if I recall right, she had to find something of her own, like she was personally invested in some particular areas of what she was doing, but it never took away from the core premise of the story, which was to resolve old murders, like murders that took place years and years ago.
Right.
Okay.
Which I found was very well done. And it also had cliffhangers within. I mean, it had self-standing episodes.
Yeah.
That were complete. But within the episode, it did have cliffhangers, probably for, to keep you coming back after the commercials or something.
Yeah.
Well made. Like, they felt natural to the story, like it would happen in that story. As you were digging and everything, you expect it as the audience that, okay, around here something is going to be revealed. So you sort of build yourself up to it on your own as the story progresses, which I think is the best way to have a cliffhanger.
It's natural, it's unforced. We're going to have the reveal of who's in the coffin. The reveal of who's behind this particular door, or what's the bit of information in this cold case file that's going to be revealed, and when that is revealed,
that's going to make
everything
fall into place.
Yeah,
and especially when it gives you the privilege, the luxury, let's say, of having your own theories that are all valid, and usually if you are paying attention, you can be correct. Yeah. And I always appreciate that in a story like this.
So it plays to your intelligence and your
exactly. Yeah. So the cliffhanger still works, even though you have guessed who it is, because you're not quite certain that it is going to be that person, for example, because it's basically whodunits. Okay. Yeah. So you know that, or you suspect that most likely this is the person that it's going to be, but you seek the confirmation, and that is the payoff. Yes. And that's why the cliffhanger works.
Yeah.
So
you seek the confirmation, and you seek the reasoning behind it, which can also be satisfying as well, because you want to know why this person did it, which is why I hate more realistic stuff, in that they tell you who did it, and you don't, like a news report about a murder, and it was determined that this guy did it, and we don't know why he did it, and we'll never, because it's real life, and you don't find out people's motives for why they do it.
Unless you follow pages on Facebook. I follow that's the thing, is that outside of the normal kind of story, the credible stories, stuff like that, you can follow other stories, like for instance, JFK's assassination. That can be considered a great cliffhanger, because there's so many conspiracies, there's so many people who talk about it outside of normal media, blah, 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 blah. Probably not even outside of normal media anymore. It's part of the story now. That you just, I don't know, that the more something lurks under the surface, the more it has many different tellings to it. And I think that's also part of what makes a cliffhanger, maybe. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too liberal with the term cliffhanger now, but it's just, okay. I don't know. There's just so many ways to tell something, so many ways to see something. I don't know. I'm listening to other music and I'm bouncing in and out of the conversation. So Deidre doesn't have much else to tell now. So
how about in everyone's comics? Have you, and when have you used cliffhangers?
I have done it when I did the whole fight between Pinky and Ace, because the whole thing is structured in that every page or couple of pages you have because it's a fight scene, and the best way to tell a fight scene is in this particular kind of fight scene is to leave people hanging. So there's these two mechas, did this rocket destroy the other mecha? How's Pinky going to get out of this? Is Ace going to come along and get her? What's going to happen? That was the way that particular scene had to be told, and it was the best way. But I don't usually use cliffhangers, but I did for that particular climax scene in Series 7, I think it was. 7, yeah, in Pinky TA. So that was my big cliffhanger thing. What about you guys?
I've had other than trying to be a page turner at certain points, you're not going to know everything on every page, obviously. So taking those sort of miniature cliffhangers off the table, mostly, and we've already touched on this, the sort of cliffhangers that are, literally what's going to happen in the next second when you click to the next page. I like more of the endings or the quote unquote cliffhangers that kind of push things forward. Hopefully really want to know what's going to happen, but between the end of that story and the next story, it's not 1 second later. It could be weeks later,
Yeah.
My most recent one was probably when I ended a story saying that the store where everything is set is going to be sold.
Yeah.
So everyone's going to be gone, kind of thing. That was sort of my big cliffhanger ending. But that it wasn't someone steps out with a gun in your face, so you want to see the next second. It was more kind of a pushing forward.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So I like that better. Well, it's easier to resolve in a cool way, I find.
Yeah, you did. That was pretty good with all the dream sequences and stuff. That was cool.
Oh, thanks.
That reminded me that the end of that Series 7 in Big Day, it ends in a massive cliffhanger, and that still hasn't been resolved. That was just on to the next chapter, which is sometime in the past. So you don't know what happens next after Series 7, because Series 8 did its own thing. So I was cheeky in that way.
Yeah.
Very cheeky. Yeah, but what you say in that, you used that cliffhanger, the store closing, as fuel for a whole series of interesting vignettes or interesting little stories that were intertwined in that way, didn't you, with the dream sequences?
Yeah, it kind of worked. I mean, I don't know if I'm super thrilled with the way it all worked, but I was somewhat happy. But in terms of structure, it didn't... it didn't require an amazing payoff, in my opinion. It required a sort of, okay, well, how's this going to be resolved?
Yeah.
Payoff,
Well, it was a clever way of doing it. It's gently.
I kind of like going that way. Yeah, exactly. Without sort of being artificially drawn out, I don't think.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't forced.
Mm-hmm.
The other one I really liked, I'm sorry, since it just popped into my head, was one where Penelope tells her whole backstory about her sort of life in this sort of world of crime and underground fighting and all this. You find out the whole story that she's narrating, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And at the end, you find out she's writing it in a letter. and she's, for various reasons, she's gone back without telling anyone. Just saying like, I have to go back, kind of idea. And then the cliffhanger, quote unquote, is the resolving of the whole gang to like going and get her back.
Yeah.
And then again, you pick up weeks later, like after whatever preparations have been done and all that kind of stuff. It's not like, yeah, that's my other favorite one I've done anyway. So yeah.
Oh, those are good. Excellent examples.
It hopefully gets you excited, but then it's kind of like, okay, well now it's not just what happens in the next 5 seconds. It's like, okay, well, what's it going to be? How's the whole next story going to resolve?
Yeah.
This situation.
It's not being wasted either. It's actually being properly used.
Right.
Getting the most out of it. So you're not being cheap with your audience.
It's way less gimmicky kind of thing, I guess. But anyway, let's pass it on to...
Oh, well, I was going to say with Tance, you do have the one... Tance, actually, you do it a lot when you think about it.
Yeah.
You've got fighters being captured and then
I think it's the nature of the story, in the sense that if you're playing Cloak and Dagger with an occupying force, you kind of live with cliffhangers. It's not they're not in a peaceful situation where things are normal and
it's a natural way to go.
So yeah, I mean, I do have a lot of cliffhangers that
certainly do
happen.
It's not like an isolated thing like I can point to. Yeah, I sort of did it here and I sort of did it there. It's like, in Without Moonlight. This page.
Well, theoretically, though, I mean, considering because it begins with a prologue and then we go back and come full circle around the middle of the story, you sort of know what is going to happen until the middle of the story, more or less. So I don't know how much of a mystery on the resolution of the cliffhangers there is. Yeah. I would say that the real cliffhangers that where you don't know what's going to happen start now. I mean, they begin now, more or less. But there are a couple of cliffhangers that I enjoyed personally. I did it for my own kicks and laughs. And one, the one that I really liked was when Basil goes to save Potis and he's carrying him and then he comes down the stairs and Arthur is coming in from trying to get and smoke that stupid cigarette that he never gets to smoke in the end, and they just meet. Like that's one of my favorite ones. They're just staring at each other like this. So yeah, that's the one that I did it for my personal enjoyment because I'm a bitch. So.
That reminds me, in Putrid Meat, Pit has a lot of cliffhangers. I don't even know if she realizes because she's drunk, but or maybe she's just a savant. But there are a lot of.
I'm listening to metal now. I've stopped. I'm kidding.
There are a lot of cliffhangers in Putrid Meat. Because you've got an A story and a B story, and maybe a C story, I'm not sure, which lends itself to cliffhangers because you can play between the two, and you did at a time anyway with the whole Tread going down into, back to his origins, and then you can switch back to the A story with Bones and him. And his gang with the giant tank. Well, no, he wasn't with the giant tank. He was separate. He was running off doing his own thing. But that way,
he's with Gretchen. He's with Gretchen. He goes
pseudo Gretchen for a while.
Eventually, he was.
Because you've got A story and B story, you naturally do have cliffhangers. The way you switch back and forth, which is a great kind of way of doing it, isn't it? You don't want to switch between an A story and a B story with a natural resolution to the thing. You want to do that, and you want to keep people hanging.
Yeah, like that's a great structure.
Dangling in the wind.
Like you can't wait to like you leave it on an awesome moment and let people anticipate, and then you can cut back to your A story.
Exactly. Yeah, you go back to your B and your A. You make people invest in both of them, and pump it up, and then cut away again, and keep on doing that.
I have to say that if one of the two stories isn't as interesting, which is not what happens with Cuted Meat, they are both very interesting. But I'm thinking of a specific example I'm going to say in a second. Like if you have this one story that is all bombastic and amazing, and it's having everyone enthralled, and then you have the other story that is okay, it's good, but it's not bombastic. And you keep cutting away from the bombastic one to the non-bombastic one. People are going to be frustrated as hell because they don't want to be switched by force to the other story, at least not as much. And that's what Tolkien did in Lord of the Rings in the books. I'm talking books now.
Yeah.
Like you have, and that happens in both stories on different stages. You have this amazing journey with Frodo and Sam, and they are going through things, and they have to overcome personal demons and blah blah blah. And then you get switched back to boring council meetings between people you don't care about. Can we please? I remember actually when I first read the book, I skipped ahead to all the Frodo and Sam's parts, and then went back and read all the other ones. And that was a much more satisfying experience for me.
That reminds me, this series of novels by Robert Jordan that were really popular, The Wheel of Time, I think it was.
Oh, yeah.
Damn idiot friend got me invested in those. And they start off being very compelling, and they A story, B story, C story, because they have about 7 main characters, and they switch between each one, and you get invested in the stories. But it gets to a point where, I don't care about this guy's story, I don't care about this person's story or that person's story. All I care about is that person's story. So I'm just gonna, whenever you get to them, I'll just ignore it, skip, read the chapter that I like. Skip, read the chapter. And then it was good. Because in his style of writing, he was a terrible writer of relationships and interpersonal drama. Because he thought what was interesting about drama is girls are bad. And they're too prissy, and they care about things too much. Oh, boys are bad because they're smelly and they're gross. And they kept on. That was the level of the argument between these characters. It was just inane. So, yeah. Definitely skip when it's boring enough. Well, perhaps that's what people are doing with the Quackcast now. Maybe we're rambling too much. Maybe we should stop. Maybe we should get to the
end. Let's resolve this thing. Don't cheat, people. It's constant.
Resolve. So
it's the last Quackcast of the year, so maybe we should commemorate that.
God help you, motherfuckers!
Or the first of the new year, man, when it's posted, it's gonna be like
posted on the 2nd
after New Year's.
Happy New Year!
So happy New Year, everybody!
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year! You have to say your Greek version again.
Καλή χρονιά.
Καλή χρονιά.
The biggest, the long version, ευτυχισμένος ο καινούριος χρόνος. Literally
ευτυχισμένος.
Ο καινούριος χρόνος.
Ο καινούριος χρόνος.
Slična Novi Godina, everybody.
Well done.
Slična Novi Godina. That's the New Year in Serbian. It's the only foreign language I know.
He's been in many Serbian films. Nobody knows what that means.
Let me see if I...
It's a snuff movie.
I'm never watching that film ever, so fuck you.
So yeah, it's in French it would be yeah.
Happy New Year, baguette. Oh.
Joyeux année. Joyeuse. It's female. Okay. Joyeuse année. That's the one. Yay.
Okay. Oh, that's a lovely one. Okay, so French. What about Spanish?
Don't know Spanish. Feliz Navidad. That's the only thing I know. Buenos años and felicidad. Something like that.
Oh, that's
Feliz
beautiful.
Navidad.
Feliz Navidad.
Feliz Navidad. Prosperos años.
Ah, lovely. Spanish is the most beautiful language. Oh, beautiful.
It is.
All right. So Happy New Year's, guys. What's going to be for the new year? Something 2018. Apart from that,
I don't know. Don't think that far. Just end the cast. You're prolonging our suffering. Just end it.
Yeah, that's the opposite of cliffhanger that I'm doing right now. I'm actually just revealing way too much.
You're doing the what's the idiot that made the Lord of the Rings into movies?
Peter Jackson. Yes.
Yes.
Peter
Jackson.
Peter Jacksoning. Okay. Goodbye, everybody. This has been Quackcast number 3.
Bye. Go home. Spend time with your families and friends. Stop listening to this. Go do something fruitful. We love you. Yay. See you next time. See you in 2018. Bye.